Welcome to round 4 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast for the week of October 11th. I'm Terry Morrow, and I'm here with Nicole Erdix.
Hello.
And Catherine Haleko.
Hello.
As moms of teens and young adults, we've survived those little kid days, yet we're still rethinking the decisions we have made all through our kids' lives and worrying about what's going on right now. Today's Thursday, which means it's time to give into our obsessing. And today we're obsessing about how to evaluate schools. My personal evaluation point is, are they fond of pushy moms? If so, if not. But Nicole, you came across an article in U.S. News that posited some much more official sounding reasons to like or dislike a school. Tell us about it.
Yeah, the article primarily focused on evaluating private elementary schools. But I think that today's parents are, whether their child is in an public elementary school or private elementary school, I think parents are just as invested in many cases. And so I think this could pertain to public elementary schools as well. And so some of the things that they were talking about,
and to middle and high schools too.
Oh, of course. Yes, that's true. So some of the things that they were talking about, I'll just say them and you let me know what your thoughts are, if that's something that would that you would consider, or if there's something else that you would consider. So one of them, of course, is teacher qualifications. So teacher longevity and professional development. I feel like that's kind of hard to judge, though.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of really good teachers who are younger and have just come out of school.
Yes. And a lot of teachers who have been on the job for a long time.
Too long.
To no longer be on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite teachers for my son was a new teacher, but she was not allowed to do her thing because other people had opinions. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, and also to professional development. I mean, it's hard to, just because you have some letters behind your name or a license or credential doesn't make you a good teacher.
Yes.
So
True.
I'm not sure that I would look at that. The other one is curriculum. So the type of curriculum that they have, is it heavy on academics? Does it have extracurricular activities? Is it a hands-on student-centered curriculum? Does that play into any of your
when my kids were in
evaluations?
When my kids were in elementary school, I sent them to a Montessori elementary because it was available as a public school. Right. I wasn't paying for it. That turned out to be a good experience for them. But then when they were in high school, their school has a project-based learning school within a school, kind of like a program. And I thought that might be good, especially for one of my kids, but they were like, no way. They did not want to do that. So
they were not having it.
No, not having it at all.
Terry, did you think about curriculum?
Well, it was a little different in that the special ed curriculum wasn't always on any sort of path that followed the regular curriculum at all. It was one of the reasons I got my daughter mainstreamed, but I didn't really think about it that much. But I think that the state sets the curriculum for all the schools around here. Mm-hmm. So it's not really a thing that you can judge an individual school by. I've been given to believe they're just kind of doing what they're told.
Yeah.
So, some teachers with more creativity and interest than others, I am certain. So I was always more interested in goodness of fit with the classroom and the curriculum to my kid, and teachers, willingness to engage, so I feel like I was sort of on a different road with all of this stuff, and my qualifications were very different. Will the teacher be nice to my child? Will she teach her something? Excellent.
We're off to a good start.
Sadly, not always the case.
Yeah. Curriculum, like you said, the schools that my kids were in, the curriculum was mandated by the province or the state.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just kind of figured, you know, like my kids didn't really fit into the typical curriculum anyway, so they were just going to make it what it was for themselves.
Yeah.
So that didn't really stand out for me. What about the actual location of the school, or like the type, you know, the physical attributes of the school? Did that ever factor in?
Not really, just because, you know, we weren't choosing. None of the schools we've just gone with the public school, that except for choosing the Montessori charter, and we were choosing that not based on the building. But since then, my kids have just gone to whatever, you know, the middle school that they need to. And I will say though that, you know, they both really hated the building that the 7th and 8th grades are in, and it is going to be torn down shortly because it's a mess.
Really?
So yeah, it's bad. And my daughter was never really able to articulate like what she didn't like about being there. But you know, the physical surroundings really affected her. So
just like the aesthetics or just in general environment affects her more.
Yeah, well, in this case, you know, it was falling apart, it was dark, it was just unpleasant to be in. You know, it wasn't conducive to learning and mood, like positive experiences, basically.
Right.
So.
Yeah, we sort of went wherever we were told to. But the elementary school my kids went to the most, I really liked the building. It was at that time really nicely done. They had, this sounds terrible, but they had all the special ed self-contained classes sort of on one hallway together, which I think they've since had to undo because you have to mix them in. But it also worked really nicely, I think, because it was less trafficked. There was less distraction. They could move back and forth through the different classrooms easily. I liked that for what it's worth. And they also had upstairs a huge, huge physical and occupational therapy room. It took like 3 or 4 classrooms worth of space. It was glorious. They could have the stuff hanging from the ceiling because this was their space. They had mats down. It was so great for my son to be able to just, you go upstairs and you saw, you know, the therapists. It was super good. Now, in later years, I went back because his high school couldn't give him therapy. So they said, go back to the elementary school and get it there after school. And by that time, they had reclaimed that beautiful space for classrooms. And now the physical and occupational therapy was being done behind the curtain on a stage in the lunchroom. Which is also doubles as the room that they use for gym. So it's an extremely noisy space, and you're in this dark, cluttered area behind it doing the therapy. So sometimes the environment that works out really, really well does not live forever.
Yeah,
that's true. Space is constantly changing in a school.
Right.
Or even, you know, just regular classrooms.
And part of the problem with the building, what Terry, when you mentioned that the classrooms were kind of off in their own wing, like part of the problem with that middle school that my kids didn't like was it was, you know, there were a lot of kids. There were probably close to 1,000 kids in there, and they weren't all on the same schedule. So you could be in the class and then some other kids would be passing in the halls because it was their passing time. So that's kind of a cluster. And then that, you know, that meant that they often weren't in the same groups with their friends. It was just kind of,
I always didn't, the one big thing for me in terms of the physical part of the building was actually, environment played a big role in it, the environment of the building. But I also really looked at the neighborhood around the building. That for me was important. And location, because my kids needed to get to school either through daycare or walking. So when they were young, like kind of middle school, at least my son did, but the location was a big factor. Like my son went to one middle school, and then when it was my daughter's turn, I had her go to one that was closer to me because the drive was shorter.
Yeah. Nice
So
if you can arrange that.
Yeah. Fortunately, we were able to do that. But that was definitely something that I thought of when I was looking at schools. I'm just looking at a few other things here. I guess available technology, would that be something that you would consider?
I think we always had technology in our schools. I mean, I think at this point in time, it's essential. You got to teach kids how to use computers.
Right.
But I don't think my kids have.
And it's kind of a district-wide thing.
Yeah.
So all the schools are pretty comparable.
Right. There was a big fundraiser for that stuff at some point in our town, a big raise of property taxes that people had to vote on to get the computers.
Right.
One thing, it's great to have the computers. Somebody needs to teach kids computer skills, like what websites not to go to when you're sitting in the library, and also how to not plagiarize.
Yeah.
Everybody says, don't just cut and paste it. Don't copy what you see online. But nobody teaches kids how to do that. And it's hard. And adults screw it up all the time. Good.
I did that.
Even professional journalists sometimes screw it up. So it's a difficult thing.
Yeah.
I used to copy stuff out of the World Book Encyclopedia. So you don't even have to have a computer for that to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think things have changed a lot since our kids are like your kids and my kids were in school, Terry, because I see now how they're integrating technology in the classroom and just the different strategies that I think they are more explicitly taught now because computers are a much more integral part of the program. Right. So I think that's improved. But when I was teaching and when my kids were in school, it was like just one class and then you had it like maybe once a month. Because it took a back seat to everything else. But I think that's changing.
If you're going to judge a school by its technology, you also have to judge it by, do the teachers use the technology?
Yes.
Do they embrace the technology?
Yes.
Will they email you or will they say, I don't do that because why are you teaching in this century if you don't do that? What is the matter with you? If they have a website set up, is it updated or is it just a shell that somebody told them they had to put up at the beginning of the year?
But also, are they using it just for the sake of using it and not, you know what I mean? Like, we're going to have a classroom blog, but, is it really doing anything for anyone? Or is it just like, because it's the latest thing,
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And, it's a time issue, but, we talked, I think a couple of weeks ago about the notebook that the teacher sends home with your kid to always read it and see all the notes, look through all the stuff. If a teacher could just text, if a teacher back when my son, say, for example, was in special ed classes, if somebody could have just texted me, your kid just did the cutest thing and here's what it is.
Yeah.
Ask your son about this tonight when he gets home. It wouldn't take that long, but it would make a huge difference to the family. I would have lived for that. It doesn't seem like it should be impossible. It doesn't have to be a whole formal communication.
I think, again, that's changing. I see a lot more kind of live engagement between families and teachers and especially having COVID and there being much more virtual, obviously more virtual learning, right? So it's forced teachers to learn how to connect to families in other ways. So I think that
Did all the Luddite teachers just retire with that?
I think some did.
Some did, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe not the ones that you were wanting to retire. Anyway, well, there are many, many other ways to evaluate a school, but we are running out of time. So feel free, though, to evaluate our podcast and give us 5 stars when you're...
Only good things, people. Only good things.
That's right.
Good things. Exactly. And that's it for today's Round 4. Tune in tomorrow when we'll share our roundup of things we've been using or enjoying lately. that we think deserve a shout out. Find all our episodes at parentingroundabout.com and talk back in the comments there, on our Facebook page, or on Twitter, where you will find us at Roundabout Chat.